NASA announced today that it hopes to launch its new monster rocket, the Space Launch System, on its first trip to deep space as early as late August. Welcome to Tech Heaven, and in this video we'll see everything you need to know about NASA's tentative launch dates for the debut of its massive new rocket. NASA has set August the 29th, September the 2nd and September the 5th as placeholder dates for the rocket's debut, though there is still plenty of work to be done on the vehicle between now and then. The Space Launch System, or SLS, is a key component of NASA's Artemis program, which aims to return humans to the Moon. The rocket is designed to carry NASA's Orion crew capsule into deep space and will perform a series of missions over the next few years, culminating in astronauts landing on the lunar surface again. But first, NASA wants to test it without a crew by flying an empty Orion capsule around the Moon. NASA officials stressed that they are not committing to any of these dates at this time, but the announcement brings the rocket closer to launch than it has ever been. The SLS has been in development for nearly a decade, and its debut date has been a moving target. NASA had hoped to launch as early as 2017, but schedule delays, development hiccups, and poor management have caused the rocket's debut to be pushed back several times. However, after a mostly full dress rehearsal with the rocket in June, NASA is nearing the end of the development process and an actual launch is on the horizon. A more concrete launch date should be announced closer to the actual launch. We'll make the agency commitment at the Flight Readiness Review just a little more than a week before launch, said NASA's Jim Free, Associate Administrator for Exploration Systems Development, at a press conference. However, these are the dates that the team is working toward and has a plan to meet. NASA rolled the SLS back into the massive vehicle assembly building at NASA's Kennedy Space Center after the dress rehearsal, which saw the rocket fully loaded with propellants for the first time. Engineers have been working to resolve some of the issues that arose during the dress rehearsals, such as a hydrogen leak, which ultimately prevented the mission team from completing the test as planned. Other tasks remain on the to-do list before launch, but the current plan is to roll the SLS back out of the VAB on August the 18th, ahead of the first launch attempt on August the 29th. The liftoff time and mission duration would differ depending on which day the SLS launches. What to expect on each date is as follows. At 8:33 a.m. ET on August the 29th, a 2-hour launch window will open. Orion would splash down in the ocean on October the 10th after a 42-day mission. At 12:48 p.m. ET on September the 2nd, a 2-hour launch window opens. Orion would splash down in the ocean on October the 11th after a 39-day mission. At 5:12 p.m. ET on September the 5th, a 1.5-hour launch window opens. Orion would splash down in the ocean on October the 17th after a 42-day mission. If NASA fails to meet these deadlines, the next launch window will open in late September. The windows are determined by the Moon's position in relation to the Earth in order for SLS to successfully enter the proper path around the Moon, and they must allow the Orion crew capsule to be illuminated by the Sun for the majority of the flight in order for its solar panels to receive enough rays. If NASA delivers SLS to the launch pad in mid-August but fails to launch by September the 5th, the rocket's liftoff could be delayed significantly. It all comes down to the SLS's flight termination system, which is used to destroy the rocket if something catastrophically goes wrong during the launch and the vehicle begins to deviate from its intended path. Before launch, teams must fully test the flight termination system, which can only be done inside the VAB. Once the SLS is released from the VAB, the flight termination system has a 20-day window before it must be tested again. That means the rocket must launch within 20 days of its rollout, or it must be returned to the VAB for another check of the flight termination system. That testing takes time, so if SLS is forced to return to the VAB after launching in August, it won't be ready to fly until late October. There is a chance we'll hit the late September launch window, Cliff Lanham, Senior Vehicle Operations Manager for Exploration Ground Systems at NASA's Kennedy Space Center, said during a press conference. But to be honest, that would be a real challenge for us, but would certainly give it our all at that point. The timeline is still subject to change in the coming weeks. For the time being, NASA has some semblance of a launch schedule for SLS, and this rocket may actually reach space this year. By the way, if you're watching us for the first time, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can enjoy our future videos while getting updated. Getting back to the topic, it's a significant achievement that could signal the start of NASA's return to the lunar surface. The Space Launch System, or SLS, is designed to carry people and cargo into deep space and will play a key role in NASA's Artemis program, which aims to put the first woman and first person of color on the moon by the mid-2020s. That's the optimistic view of SLS's future, but today's debut comes with a long and tumultuous history. The Space Launch System is perhaps best known for being perpetually delayed, with the rocket's launch always just over the horizon. SLS was conceived in 2010 and was originally scheduled to fly as early as 2017, only to be repeatedly pushed back. Its tardiness has earned the rocket many detractors who also object to the vehicle's exorbitant price tag. According to a recent budget estimate by NASA's Inspector General, the first 4 flights of the rocket will cost $4.1 billion each, with the long-term operational cost still unknown. Many people have called for the program to be scrapped in favor of funding faster and more cost-effective alternatives to deep space, particularly those being built by smaller commercial companies. Despite the skeptics, the SLS team has pressed on toward the finish line. It has paid off. The rocket is no longer a CGI animation created by NASA animators, but an actual rocket complete with engines, tanks, and tubes, and its launch may be imminent. It's great to see it finally rolling out after all the ups and downs. Christina Chaplin, a space analyst and former director of the US Government Accountability Office, which audited the SLS, said, "That's what a lot of these programs do. They have many ups and downs, some more than others, but they get there. It costs twice as much and takes twice as long, but they get there." But the rocket still has a lot to prove to its detractors, many of whom believe it should have never existed in the first place. Even as the rocket approaches its launch pad, other comparable vehicles are being developed, most notably SpaceX's future Starship rocket, which could do what SLS does at a much lower cost. SLS began in 2010 as NASA was transitioning from one major human spaceflight program to another. NASA's primary vehicle for transporting humans to and from orbit for the previous 3 decades, the Space Shuttle, was set to retire in 2011. Meanwhile, the space agency was working on Constellation, a new initiative to return to the moon inspired by a directive from President George W. Bush. Constellation's life was cut short before it could really get going. Constellation promised to reuse many of the shuttle program's contractors and flight hardware, but its projected costs were rapidly rising. A thorough examination of the entire program revealed that it was simply unsustainable within NASA's projected budgets, costing approximately $145 billion from 2010 to 2020. As a result, the incoming Obama administration cancelled it in favor of encouraging private sector rocket development. And with that being said, it's time to end our video. Are you excited for this launch? Let us know in the comments. Like this video and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more amazing videos like this. We'll see you in the next video.